My thanks to the Managing Committee of IMS India for giving me the opportunity and inviting me to this seminar. It gives me the opportunity to meet my old friends, colleagues in not only India but in Singapore and Dubai. So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. All of us in this room, some way or the other, is familiar or involved with IMO legislation, being a surveyor. And some of us might have some experience with how the proceedings goes on in IMO. But I just want to share my personal experience, how it goes and develops any IMO legislation, even a convention or a very small amendment. I have been nominated by Nautical Institute headquarters to be their voluntary delegate in ship systems and equipment subcommittee for consecutive 3 years. So I attended in 2013, this year, and it will be in 2015. And same subcommittee, and so that the sharing of input and output is continuous. Okay. Now, I was nominated by Nautical Institute being a surveyor. So my selection was that I was a surveyor and I should be suitable for one of the subcommittees. That's the way it came about. But you have heard from the inaugural speech of UMD Captain Mandal that surveyors are not having any direct representation in IMO. IACS is having, IMARIST is having, Nautical Institute is having as NGO. So I think we should take it forward, take up with the headquarters in IMS in UK and see if you can have a NGO status in IMO. I'm just putting this proposal forward, and Melin can take it up on behalf of India branch. Okay. My presentation is in two parts. One is just to give the functional and structural structure of IMO, otherwise we won't be able to proceed further. And then I've taken developing legislation on onboard lifting appliances, still being developed, and you will see how protracted and time consuming it is. So, and I have tried to present original IMO documents so that you can have a feel of it, and thus this presentation is in PDF format. Okay. Is it okay on the screen, or smaller should be better?
It's okay.
It's okay. So now it goes, the Assembly, Council, Secretariat, and then there are 5 committees. But actual activities goes on in the subcommittees. There are 7 subcommittees, and it covers all aspects of marine activities. It's been divided. It used to be 9 committees, but from this year, it became 7 subcommittees. And any issue is discussed initially in this subcommittee. If it is worth it, it goes up to either MEPC or MSC, or both. Because if you see that 2 of the committees are common on the pollution prevention response, PPR and III, they report both to MEPC and MSC. And thereafter, through Council and Assembly, it goes further and becomes legislation. Okay. Now, so if I just say, so subcommittees are the basic forums to start with and work on any relevant issue which leads to formation of maritime legislation, convention, code, guidelines, circular, and their amendments. And how it goes in one session. So if I come from below, or this is the center actually for a subcommittee. So it takes place only 5 days from Monday to Friday, starts with a plenary session, and then working groups and drafting groups are divided. So during the subcommittee meeting, these comments, decisions taken in plenary session on the agenda items. So the inputs comes from the working group, who takes all the working materials. You see so many things to do, report from the correspondence group, MSCFC recommendation from the previous meetings, project reports, study reports, assessment reports, research result verification, and so on. So on that basis, the working groups produces the working report on Friday, and it gives to the subcommittee. On the other hand, there are some working materials. So that goes to the drafting group. If some of the legislation is in a matured state, so it will become a legislation, so it goes to the working group. Sorry, drafting group. Then the drafting group also prepares a working report, and that goes to the subcommittee. And then if it is worked, it goes up to MEPC or MSC or both. So this is basically, it works like that. And it's taken up, and next year, whatever is the outcome of their subcommittee meeting happened in 2014 will be taken up in 2015. Right, so I take a case of this. See, if you see the date, Maritime Subcommittee meeting in 8 February 2011 on the right side. So initially it was on requirements for construction and installation of onboard lifting appliances. So it is the first initial document on onboard lifting appliances. So this document, if you see the executive summary, contains a proposal for inclusion of a new output aiming to develop of the requirements for construction and installation of onboard lifting appliances. And this was submitted by the representatives of Chile, Japan, New Zealand, Norway, and the Republic of Korea. So if it's the background, just to have a feel of it, what happened in the port of Keihin in Japan on September 2008, the barge 18 Shinyu Maru, 540 deadweight, sank while she was engaged in handling cargo to cargo ship Rikmar Jakarta. It's a bigger one, 20,000 gross ton, owing to the failure of cargo handling crane installed on board Rikmar Jakarta. This accident caused injuries to 3 persons and the loss of 1 life. According to the interim investigation report by the Japan Transport Safety Board, when one of the cranes of Rikmar Jakarta had been hoisting the cargo, a generator of almost 314 ton, from Shinyu Maru, the ship and the wire of the crane broke and the cargo fell on the Shinyu Maru, puncturing the bottom hull plating, which caused the barge to sink. Right, so accidents resulting from mechanical failures of lifting appliances are not uncommon. In Japan, there are at least 18 accidents reported, 64 safety occurrences between January 2000 and May 2007, 18 serious injuries and 1 fatality. So these are the reports on which. So what happened to the scope of proposal? So this document sets out a proposal to develop requirements for construction and installation of onboard lifting appliances. And the intention of this proposal is that if a ship is equipped with lifting appliances, they should satisfy the construction and installation requirement. But is there any need for it? So it says mechanical failures related to onboard lifting appliances which cause serious injuries and fatalities. In SOLAS, however, there are no requirements for onboard lifting appliances. I mean, till date, there is no unified regulation for lifting appliances, operation and safety of lifting appliances. Only legislation is international one is ILO Convention 152, Article 21, and it is very sort of vague. If we see, it just a summary. If we say it shall be of good design and construction and of adequate strength. That's all. So Article 21 is quoted here. I'm just going to spend more time on it, but basically it doesn't say specify any requirements, safety requirements, construction requirements. So it was believed that onboard lifting appliances should be ensured to have a certain level of safety to be stipulated by IMO in a consistent and unified manner. So therefore, it was taken up that SOLAS, under the SOLAS, it should be taken up as a new legislation. So is there any cost to the maritime industry in doing so? No additional cost is anticipated because this proposal doesn't intend to mandate the installation of lifting appliances. It is not a new equipment or new appliance. It is what is existing is the safety procedures of the actions. So benefits which would accrue from this proposal. So proper construction and installation of lifting appliances under the unified requirements will contribute to the prevention of mechanical failures of lifting appliances. Right, so priority and target completion date. The development of requirements for construction installation of lifting appliances corresponds to, it's said above. So, and it is given a high priority to do that. Is this subject of the proposal within the scope of IMO's objective? Yes, it relates to the mandatory requirements of SOLA Chapter 2.1, construction of the ship. Do adequate standards exist? Well, there are some ISO standards regarding crane, but actually not for on the safety side of it. So the DE subcommittee would be the appropriate body for the development. So it was given to the DE subcommittee was design and equipment, which is now merged with SSC, ship safety, ship systems and equipment. So it was DE subcommittee was given the responsibility to take it ahead. Okay. Meantime, another committee called Flag State Implementation Committee, which is now III committee, through their investigation, they found some. See, they had so many matters to report to the Maritime Safety Committee and the Marine Environment Committee in the same year, 04 March 2011. So out of that, only one of the item, number 5, was casualty statistics and investigation. So instead of going through all that, if I go to that, what was the report? The subcommittee, being aware that a document of requirements for construction and installation of onboard lifting appliances has been submitted to MSC 89 which, for consideration, and in view of the very serious incident reports which have been analyzed, Blessed Marine and Consciente agreed to recommend to MSC 89 to include winches in the spectrum of consideration of the above mentioned documents. So it was onboard lifting appliances. This report from FSI said no, winches should be taken into account because both these ships have fatal accidents because of forward mooring cage failures. So it's coming from two directions, and it was initially onboard lifting appliances. From the FSI report, it comes the winches. So it will be integrated now. So when DSC took it up and they discussed about it, meantime, ISCHCA, International Cargo Handling Coordination Committee, approved information on the outcome of an investigation they took. So they said it's, that they highlighted few factors that should be taken into account. So their report was that requirements related to cargo handling and lifting appliances are developed by ILO. The current ILO 152, which is adopted in 1979, has been ratified by Swansea State, but it is mainly with the enforceable by the shore-side labor inspectors, which we know, and in relation to the activities of dock workers. SOLAS contain no specification requirements relating to the construction and use of cargo handling and non-cargo handling ships lifting appliances. There was no requirement to class ships cranes, and very few are classed, as we know. I mean, it is optional to have this cargo gear book endorsed by the class. Then accidents reviewed by the investigation were all subject to official investigation, and the conclusions in each case was that primary cause of accident was bad maintenance or lack of maintenance of the equipment. It has been suggested to ILO that it should amplify the guidance of its code of practice on thorough examination. Okay, so following that, the development of requirements of onboard lifting appliances and winches, it was approved by MSC to take into account and take it further after these two reports. Right. So next year, so you see this report is of 2013. So 2 years have passed. 19 March 2013, Ship Design and Equipment is making the report of working group after their meeting. So these were the participants. Just see, so what are the terms of reference? Develop a plan for the work to be carried out under the agenda item identifying the specific deliverables. So draft amendments to IMO instruments. So what to do? A correspondence group should be established. And what is the action plan? Analysis of existing regulations and instruments in place. What is that? ILO, SOLAS, STCW, ISM code, LSA code, HSC guidelines, MODU code, ISO standards, to see if they have a gap analysis. then prepare draft guidelines for onboard lifting appliances, then amendment to existing IMO instruments. So this was the action plan. So there was a matter of establishment of a correspondence group. So it was formed and New Zealand was made the correspondence group leader with the guidelines given, and they were supposed to report after 1 year in Design and Equipment Subcommittee 58. Right. So came 1 year has passed. Next, this DE has become Ship Subcommittee of Ship System and Equipment, SSE. So on 12 March 2014, the report comes and then decisions are taken. So you see on the participant, the Nottingham Institute is there. And I was representing Nottingham Institute in this subcommittee that time. So what was the working report mainly? It was data analysis contained in the correspondence group, but it was found that it's not sufficient. It was a few cases, but there should have been more thorough analysis of, and everybody opined that there are more incidents and more should be collected. So that is the first action, and then during the analysis, what are the points to be analyzed? So common elements and trends in the accident reports should be identified. Where possible, the onboard lifting appliances operators, that is ship's crew or shore-based personnel, should be determined. So these are the criteria coming up for the next correspondence group to find out. Relevant data is available under the status of certification and test reports. Possible misuse of equipment that may be contributed to the incident should be considered. And if there are any legislation available not in English, this should be translated. Now, the problem came up something, I remember it was, I think, Antigua guy, that okay, what is the definition of lifting appliances? What type of equipment should the scope of this legislation? So it said, nor cargo handling lifting appliances, not lifts, the lifts for the ships, not elevators, this should not be included. And those equipments like winch, lifeboat winch lifting appliances, but it is covered by LSA code, so it should not come. So it should be narrowed down to certain equipment. So it should be shown there. Now that comes applicable for which ships? So basically it's for solar ships. And modules should not be included, they have a different code. And fishing vessels should be out of the scope of this legislation. New and existing ships, so it should be mainly with the existing ships because it's mainly with the design and construction. If it affects design and construction, it can go for the new ships, but there should be a transition period. So what will be the focus of the measures? Insufficient safety procedures in place, lifting hooks not engaged properly, training in operation and maintenance, and operation and maintenance condition that could induce failure of onboard lifting appliances and winches, and particularly wire rope. So the action plan was taken as the next step, and a framework of potential measures should be developed based on the areas of focus identified through the root cause analysis of the incident reports. So since March this year, this correspondence group is working on these items, and today was the last day of publishing the 4th round report of all the correspondence group, and I got that copy from Kenny in New Zealand. This is the outcome, and it will be submitted by December to MSC to put it forward in the next ACC meeting in first week of March. Now, before going further, if I just summarize, see what is going to happen with this legislation. 2014 ACC1, which was done, so it was correspondence group, result was taken, incident report was done, but it was, if you see the squared red area, that on consideration of insufficient safety procedures in place, lifting hooks not engaged properly, training in operation and maintenance, and operational and maintenance conditions that could include failure of onboard lifting appliances and winches, and particularly wire rope. After this 2014 ACC, next year is going to agree on the scope of application of potential measures and provide firm guidance on their status, that is mandatory and non-mandatory, how this legislation will go. And this report to MSC 95, which is going to take place in 2015, it will be submitted there. Then after the MEC concurrence, you see 2016, around March, there will be possible amendments and establish a working group to develop or draft a legislation. 2017, amendment to existing mandatory IMO instrument, and that should be adopted by Maritime Safety Committee meeting in number 99 in 2018. So if you see, started in March 2011, so it will take 7 years if it goes this way. So my point was just to share with you that how lengthy and protracted a simple legislation for lifting appliances can be, and we have to wait that some legislation is coming up, possibly amending chapter 2.1 of SOLAS, to have a unified regulation for lifting onboard lifting appliances and winches. But all legislation doesn't go this way. Flavor of politics is everywhere. If you remember, 9/11 happened in 11 September 2001. 2002 December conference held. 2003 April, the ISPS, the amendment to SOLAS chapter 9.1 and 9.2 was adopted. And after 1 year, 2004, it was in force, ISPS code. How long did it take? So everything is not same. But normally other matters goes this way, it takes a long time and to come back. But even then there are flaws. Today during lunch with Captain Nigel Hartley, and we are discussing, that double hull matter. It came up after a long time, but we are now facing a lot of problems with the double hull. If there is a leakage from a tanker to a double hull, what's going to happen? So legislation comes, another one coming, and keeps on going. Somebody is having his job going on. Thank you very much.